In 1992, a young nun named Sister Abhaya was found dead in a convent well. At first glance, it seemed like a tragic suicide. But as the layers unraveled, this turned into one of India's most sensational murder mysteries. The case baffled investigators for decades, until the most unlikely of witnesses emerged. A thief named Raju held the missing piece to the puzzle. How did a petty thief become the key to solving a nun's mysterious death? And what secrets did his testimony uncover? Let's dive deep into the chilling story of Sister Abhaya. Born in a humble home in Kottayam, she was raised with strong values of faith, discipline, and service. Her life mirrored the simplicity of her name, Thomas Abhaya, meaning fearless. She joined the St. Joseph's congregation with a pure intent to serve God and humanity. At 19 years of age, she took her vows, embracing a path that demanded devotion, humility, and a commitment to the greater good. By 1992, at the age of 21, Sister Abhaya was a student at BCM College in Kottayam. She balanced her studies with duties at the convent, where she was a symbol of piety and diligence. But unbeknownst to her, she had walked into a world full of secrets, power struggles, and moral corruption hidden beneath a veneer of holiness. On the night of March 26, 1992, Sister Abhaya retired to her dormitory as usual. As she drifted off to sleep, she carefully set her alarm, ensuring it would wake her from the depths of her dreams at the peculiar hour of 3 a.m. In the stillness of the early morning, she woke up to study, the world outside still wrapped in darkness. The faint hum of crickets lingered as the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon. The soft glow of her desk lamp illuminated scattered notes, textbooks, and a half-empty bottle of water from the night before. Rubbing the sleep from her eyes, she sat down, her determination sharper than her lingering fatigue. The quiet was a sanctuary. No distractions, no noise, just her and the task ahead. This exam, set for later that week, carried the weight of her efforts, her hopes, and a future she was working so hard to claim. As she was busy studying for her exam, thirst crept in, subtle at first, like a whisper at the back of her mind. She tried to ignore it, her focus fixed on the pages before her, but it grew insistent, dry, and nagging. The words on the paper began to blur, her concentration slipping as the feeling took hold. With a sigh, she pushed her chair back and stood, the quiet of the early morning wrapping around her like a blanket. The convent was still asleep. The cool air touched her face, refreshing, as if the universe itself knew she needed a moment to reset. Feeling thirsty, she made her way to the convent kitchen, her footsteps echoing softly through the quiet hallways. The faint glow of moonlight filtered through stained glass windows, painting the stone floors in muted colors. As she reached for the heavy wooden door, a distant murmur caught her attention. She paused, straining to make sense of the hushed voices drifting from a nearby room. Unaware of the secret meeting unfolding just beyond the kitchen walls, she pushed the door open, the creak of its hinges breaking the delicate silence. The voices stilled for a moment, a chill settling in the air. For a moment, the air felt thick with secrecy, the kind that made her skin crawl. She couldn't hear every word, but fragments reached her. Words like "she saw us," "what do we do?" and "we must act before it's too late." The sound of her pounding heart nearly drowned them out, but their meaning was clear enough to send a chill down her spine. Her instinct screamed at her to leave, to turn and pretend none of this had happened. But her legs felt rooted to the spot, her curiosity at war with her fear. As Sister Steffi glanced nervously toward the door, their eyes met, just for a heartbeat. Panic surged through her veins. She gasped softly, ducking back into the shadows, pressing herself against the cold stone wall. Her heart thundered in her chest, loud enough that she was certain they would hear it. Silence followed, stretching into eternity, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Did they see her? She wondered, her mind racing through the worst possibilities. Whatever this meeting was, whatever secrets they were trying to protect, it was something she was never meant to witness. And now, she couldn't unsee it. It was as if a veil had been lifted and she'd stumbled into a reality darker, than she ever imagined, a truth that would change everything. Reportedly, Sister Steffi invited Father Thomas and Father Jose to the convent late at night. The trio convened in a private space, allegedly engaging in a clandestine and immoral act. They were treading on dangerous grounds, risking their reputation, position in the church, and the sanctity of the institution. Their gathering was a breach of convent rules and a betrayal of their religious vows. In that fleeting moment, Abhaya's innocence collided with their guilt, and the trio panicked, knowing their secret was at risk of exposure. In a desperate attempt to cover up their actions, they decided to silence Sister Abhaya permanently. Reportedly, Father Thomas took the lead in attacking her. Sister Steffi and Father Jose allegedly assisted in the act. Sister Abhaya was struck on the head with a blunt object. The hit to her head rendered her unconscious, but did not cause instant demise. The three, in haste and fear, dragged her body to the convent's well. They threw her into the deep, dark water of the convent's well, hoping it would appear as a suicide. They thought their crime would sink with Abhaya's body in the well. Raju was the kind of thief you would never suspect. He was charming, quick-witted, and always a step ahead. To the untrained eyes, he was just another face in the bustling crowd, but to those who knew his name, Raju was a shadow with a reputation. For where he walked, treasures disappeared and stories were born. It was a night like any other. The convent was quiet, nuns asleep, and the world seemingly at peace. But hidden in the darkness, a thief moved stealthily, searching for anything of value. What he found instead was a secret so horrifying that it would haunt him for the rest of his life. The petty thief, with a knack for slipping into places unnoticed, had no idea the danger that awaited him that night. He was not after much, maybe some loose cash or a forgotten trinket. But as he crept closer and closer to the convent's well-lit kitchen, his sharp instincts told him something wasn't right. Then he saw them, three figures moving hurriedly, their faces tense and shrouded in shadows. They were dragging something. No, they were dragging someone. The small, limp body of a woman. Raju froze, clutching the tree next to him for support. His usual fear of getting caught was replaced by something far worse: terror. He watched as they carried the unconscious body towards the deep, dark well in the courtyard. They were in a rush, desperate to finish the act before anyone could see them. With one swift motion, they let her fall into the deep, dark abyss. The splash was deafening, sending ripples through the water and through Raju's very soul. He knew in that moment he wasn't witnessing a theft or an accident. This was a crime scene. Terrified and trembling, Raju slipped away, unseen by the perpetrators. He knew he could not stay silent, but he also knew the risk of speaking up. After all, what was his business in the convent that late at night? Who would believe the word of a thief against the power of the Holy Church? In 1992, the case was ruled as suicide. But 28 years later, the public had not forgotten the crimes committed at the convent's well. Investigators reopened the case of the mysterious death. Raju's testimony became the missing piece in the puzzle. What he had seen that night helped expose the horrifying truth behind Sister Abhaya's murder, a truth that shook an entire community to its core. Raju's life of crime led him to stumble upon one of Kottayam's most infamous cases. And, in the shadows where he once thrived, he became the unlikely witness to a murder the world would never forget. After years of delays and legal hurdles, the court finally delivered its verdict in December 2020. Father Thomas Kottayam and Sister Steffi were found guilty of murder, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy. They were sentenced to life imprisonment, while Father Jose Puthrikale was acquitted of any wrongdoing, providing a sense of justice to this long-dormant case. The conclusion of Sister Abhaya's case underscores the immense challenges in pursuing justice amidst power and corruption, while also showcasing the resilience of investigative journalism, public advocacy, and the legal system. Stay tuned to our channel for more riveting cases like this, where truth and justice ultimately prevail.